Good morning. It's Thursday, August 6, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, U.S. President Barack Obama takes his argument in favor of the nuclear deal with Iran to the American public, hoping to shore up support while Congress reviews it. UK-based organization is attempting to counter Islamic State online propaganda with a new video offering a far bleaker glimpse into life in the service of jihad. And later on the show, in honor of Jon Stewart's last time hosting The Daily Show, we offer our favorite bits and talk to some people who were inspired by his work. Good morning, I'm Oded Grober, and we begin in the United States, where President Barack Obama presented his arguments yesterday in favor of the recently signed Iran nuclear deal. Speaking in a televised address at the American University, Obama sought to convince the public that the deal signed was the best one possible for world security and, despite the opposition of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, was also the best for Israel's security. Obama noted that Israel was the sole country to publicly reject the deal, said that while he believed Netanyahu is sincere in his opposition, he believed he was wrong. The American president further warned that if U.S. lawmakers ended up rejecting the agreement, they will destroy Washington's international credibility. To discuss the speech and the ongoing battle in Congress, we're joined in the studio by former Israeli envoy to the U.S. and expert on U.S.-Israel relations, retired Ambassador Yoram Ettinger. Good morning to you, Yoram.
Good morning.
And Dr. Raz Zimt from the Alliance Center for Iranian Studies at the Tel Aviv University and the Forum for Regional Thinking. Good morning to you as well. Also joining us is pollster Stephen Miller, whom we'll talk to a little bit later, but feel free to jump in and give us your opinion of these matters. So, Yoram, let's begin with you. What did you think of Obama's speech? What do you think was behind it? How did you think he did?
Well, the speech reflects the president's anxiety, his concern that there may be sufficient votes to pass objection to the agreement and therefore also veto override. And therefore, he now invests much of his time trying to combat the counter arguments to the agreement. The president, in my mind, is not so secure as far as the Democratic senators, as well as House members on the Hill, and is aware that right now there is a growing majority among the American voters who oppose the agreement, and unlike the European or the Israeli political system, in the U.S. it is the constituent who is the major axis of the political system. And the American legislators' first loyalty is to the voter rather than to the president or to the party bosses. Most voters do support the Israeli position rather than the president's position on Iran.
That's an interesting point. Let's watch a report on the matter and come back and hear some more.
The U.S. Congress review of the nuclear deal with Iran is in full swing. So too is the battle for the hearts and minds of the American people, and it's being conducted without any sentiment. Over 50 years ago, John F. Kennedy came to the American University in Washington to try to persuade Americans to support a nuclear test ban treaty with the Soviet Union. On Wednesday, current U.S. President Barack Obama is at the same location, also on a mission of persuasion, this time to drum up support for the agreement with Iran.
Now, the final criticism, this sort of a catch-all that you may hear, is the notion that there's a better deal to be had, one that relies on vague promises of toughness, and, more recently, the argument that we can apply a broader and indefinite set of sanctions. Those making this argument are either ignorant of Iranian society or they're just not being straight with the American people.
This speech comes only a day after Obama and the leading opponent of the Iran deal, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, went head-to-head once again, both addressing the Jewish community in an attempt to sway Congress to their point of view.
The deal that was supposed to end nuclear proliferation will actually trigger nuclear proliferation. It will trigger an arms race a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, the most volatile part of the planet. That's a real nightmare.
Obama hosted American Jewish leaders at the White House in a meeting which some participants described as stormy, and during which he warned that Israel would be the one to pay the price if there's no agreement, namely being militarily attacked by Iran's proxy, Hezbollah. In the Israeli security establishment, such horror scenarios are being carefully examined, but opinions are still divided on the basic essence of the agreement with Tehran.
Israel has been dealing with rockets and missiles every year or two, so to relate the Iranian issue to rockets reaching Tel Aviv is misunderstanding Israeli society, and I think it's a mistake. But I also think the policy of the Israeli Prime Minister is wrong. There's no more room to discuss whether it's a good agreement or a bad one. It's signed.
It's the right and maybe even obligation of Obama to protect the agreement he initiated. I think it's a bad agreement, and it's important to acknowledge that even Obama himself admits there's a strong connection between the deal and its consequences and the security of the State of Israel. And this is why it is the responsibility of Netanyahu to try and foil the agreement.
With his opponents working extra hours to foil the deal and the clock ticking rapidly toward the September 17th deadline for Congress to approve or disapprove the agreement, Obama, who will leave this weekend for his 2-week summer vacation in Martha's Vineyard, has no time to spare. According to administration officials, a media blitz will take place in the coming weeks as part of the White House crusade to pressure Congress. It's a fight Obama already made very clear he's not willing to lose.
We're now joined from Washington by I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good morning, Tal.
Good morning.
So what can you tell us about what's being said in Washington after yesterday's speech?
Well, it's clear that it was one of the most probably staunchest and most blunt speeches Obama has ever given on the Iran topic. It's true that the goal is to cement democratic support and to give material to his allies to defend the agreement. But while he is selling the deal, he was definitely going after its critic. And of course, the main critic was the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. So I think it was probably the most harshest attack we've heard on the Israeli Prime Minister and his objection to the Iran deal. And this, of course, follows intense lobbying efforts on Capitol Hill by Netanyahu and by the Israeli ambassador to D.C., Ron Dermer, and of course the Jewish American lobby, AIPAC, who have been lobbying intensively on Capitol Hill to block the deal and will probably continue to do so in the upcoming weeks while the lawmakers go home to their constituents. But basically, Obama singled out Israel as the only country who opposed the deal. He portrayed Netanyahu as the one leading the warmongers, and he refuted the claim that we hear a lot by Netanyahu that there is a better deal. He says, Obama said quite clearly, he's wrong and he's selling a fantasy. So basically, what has been said in Washington is what everyone can see, how this what is supposed to be very strong alliance between Jerusalem and Washington is basically turned at this point into a very, very vicious matchup between the leaders of the two nations.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Tal. Yoam, things are certainly out in the open. You know, is it worth it putting up this fight against President Obama to save a deal which many say is a done deal?
Well, the question is what is at stake? At stake is not only a potential nuclear war in the Middle East, but at stake is an Iranian threat as far as terrorism, as far as toppling every single pro-American, relatively moderate Arab regime in the region, and its impact on the Middle East, not only on Israel, but primarily on vital American interests. And when you think about a potential nuclear Iran, the current severe threats are going to be dramatically compounded. And in view of those odds, certainly it is the duty of every person who understands the national security concerns of the U.S. and Israel to launch a major battle against such a reckless, in my mind, gullible and self-destructive type of policy, which, by the way, is not opposed only by Israel. That's one of the many inaccuracies of the president in his speech. But Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states and Jordan and Egypt, they all oppose it. It's true that the leaders of those countries are diplomatically constrained. But it is traditional practice in Saudi Arabia especially to voice the most authentic position and assessments through the Saudi-owned or regime-owned daily media, Asharq al-Awsat, Saudi Arabia, Al-Arabiya TV, and they criticize the agreement very, very severely, in fact, stating that the U.S. will be burdened with the consequences as far as its own homeland security and other vital interests.
Yeah. All right, let's turn to Dr. Tzimp and hear a little bit about what we can tell, if we can tell, about what Iranians think about the deal. Where does it stand there?
Well, Iranians are today mainly concerned with what Obama called hardliners. There is a genuine political debate in Iran. Not that they're afraid that the Majlis, the Iranian parliament, won't approve the deal. There's no chance.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, right. But there are some important, influential hardliners criticizing the deal. Just yesterday, one of the most influential clerics in Iran, the hardliners, said, well, that's a bad deal because it overrides Khamenei's red lines, because it doesn't observe his red lines. This is actually a capitulation. So there are some hardliners in Iran against the deal, but I would say that they are waiting for the Congress. They are waiting to see what the United States will do. Khamenei actually didn't really support the deal. In his speech, he said, well, I thank Rouhani and his team. I don't want the criticism to be too harsh, but he didn't say I support the deal. So he also waits for the United States to see what happens.
Do you agree with what Obama said in the speech, that the sanctions brought on the change in Iran that enabled the deal?
Yes, I think it's quite obvious that the sanctions were successful in bringing back Iran back to the negotiating table because of the economic pressures they were under. But I'm not sure that the continuing sanctions against the United States will bring Iran further towards what they consider to be a total capitulation and readiness to dismantle all their nuclear facilities. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. This is a good time to bring into the debate Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld, the director of the American Center for Democracy. Hello, Dr. Ehrenfeld.
Hello.
So, Obama said that the sanctions alone could not stop Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. I'm curious to hear your view of this matter.
Well, let me first say something about the reports from Washington. Obama did not single out only the Israeli Prime Minister as the single opposition to the deal. He actually, and called him warmonger. He actually said that Republicans and those who oppose everybody who opposes the deal is a warmonger, and singled out actually more the Republicans than Netanyahu. Saying that missiles will fly over Tel Aviv if Congress actually does not approve the deal. Well, we had missiles flying over Tel Aviv without the Iran deal whatsoever.
Yeah, coming from different.
These are really not very important issues, but as far as the sanctions. This is really, if there was ever a theater of the absurd, this is even more absurd than that. This is really farcical.
How so?
Giving money, more money, when he is admitting, and members of his administration admit, that the money will be used to fund actually terrorist activities, well, why do you give them money then? Sure, they came to the table because they were burdened by sanctions.
Right.
So what? Why are you? You should actually squeeze them even more in order to agree to what you said all the time, that they will never have any opportunity and you will dismantle nuclear facilities in Iran.
Well, there is some value to doing things in agreement. Do you not agree?
Well, agreement, the Iranians had never, the Iranians, like the Palestinians, have never actually acted upon anything that they signed. It's a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper in order to demand something else later. That has been always, this is the Middle Eastern bazaar. This is how they negotiate. Both the Israelis and the Americans don't apparently realize that, but this is how it goes. It's time to wake up. And I think that the most, one of the most, there are so many really outrageous things in this so-called agreement, allowing the Iranians to provide samples to the IAEA is just beyond the pale, okay? How can anybody agree upon that? And they are keeping it a secret. This has been leaked, this has been now verified, and there are many things. The Iranians deny that there is a secret agreement, but apparently there is a secret agreement. And the language that the administration, that Obama and Kerry are using, is simply offensive.
I see. Well, thank you for these words, Dr. Ehrenfeld. Raz, do you think that the Iranians will hold their word, will carry out what they sign?
We'll just have to wait and see. But I think it will be a mistake for Iranians to try and not observe the agreement when they know that in 10, 15 years they can do almost whatever they want without any restraints. Yeah. So I think they will be committed to the agreement. Perhaps they will try to generally and gradually try to look for where are the limits. But I think they don't have any excuse to do that, because they know that eventually the deal is up to 10 or 15 years at the most.
Yeah, yeah. Back to you, Yoam. With this, the relations, U.S.-Israel relations at an all-time low, where does that leave the Jewish community in the States?
Well, first of all, U.S.-Israel relations are not at an all-time low.
You disagree?
Well, the facts suggest that while there is no chemistry at all between the president and the prime minister.
That's an understatement if I ever heard one.
The military, technological, scientific, commercial cooperation is at an all-time high. And by the way, it's not the first time. Shamir-Bush senior relations were much worse than Obama-Netanyahu. Compared to Bush-Shamir, the current lack of chemistry seems like a cold honeymoon. But the fact is that during Shamir-Bush confrontation, again, strategic cooperation surged. And it surges because, contrary to the misperception, U.S.-Israel relations are not a one-way street. U.S. gives, Israel receives. The last 20, 30 years, and especially the last 5 years since the eruption of the Arab tsunami, it has been very busy two-way street, mutually beneficial, win-win, with Israel playing greater role by the day. And therefore, President Obama and Netanyahu do not communicate constructively. But according to the American political system, the legislature is co-equal and co-determining. And even within the administration, the military establishment does understand the value of Israel. Just one example, if you speak with the chairman of the Intelligence Committee in the House or in the Senate, they will confide with you that the scope of intelligence received by the U.S. from Israel exceeds that which the U.S. receives from all NATO countries combined. That's worth much more than the $3.1 billion which the U.S. invests in Israel every single year.
I see. And when it comes to the Jewish community in the States, do you feel that their hearts are with Obama, for whom many voted, or with Netanyahu?
Well, we just heard yesterday that the American Jewish Committee, which is a moderate, dovish Jewish organization, has expressed its opposition to the agreement, and that's, if not the largest, it's one of the largest Jewish organizations in the U.S. But again, let's not forget, Mr. Ben-Gurion declared independence in defiance of American Jewish leadership, which pressured him not to confront then General George Marshall, the Secretary of State, and Truman, who imposed security embargo on Israel during the War of Independence. American Jewish community was torn between Israel and the U.S. when Lyndon Johnson told Eshkol, "Don't you dare preempt in 67, because if you will act alone, you shall remain alone." This is the story of American Jewry, but let's not miss the main point. This is not primarily an Israeli issue. It's an American issue, and therefore the facts are that some 57% of the American public opposes the agreement, only 28% support it, and merely 52% of Democrats in America support it. This is a thin margin, which again makes President Obama quite antsy about the potential of a veto override on Capitol Hill.
We'll see what happens there. Thank you, Jon. Thank you, Oz. We now set our sights on the race to the White House and the first Republican presidential debate set to take place this evening in Cleveland. Organized by Fox News, the 10 leading contenders will take part in the debate, with all eyes focused on current frontrunner Donald Trump, of course, while the remaining 7 candidates that didn't make the cut will take part in a separate debate earlier in the day. As we said, from 202 Strategies, Political Strategies, Stephen Miller is with us. Thanks for being here, Stephen. Let's take a look at a report about the frontrunner Donald Trump. Come back and hear some more.
The Trump Tower in New York gives you some idea of Donald Trump's larger-than-life character. Behind the gold facade, you can visit the gift shop to buy anything from Trump-branded shirts to his many books, to his fragrance, named, of course, Success. There aren't many property developers with this sort of personal branding. Trump grew up at this address in Queens, New York. His father Fred himself made millions in property and took Donald into the family business. Initially focusing on Manhattan properties, Trump has diversified into golf courses, beauty pageants and TV shows, building brand awareness that has helped propel him to the top of the Republican presidential field.
Donald Trump is everywhere and has been everywhere for a long time. He's part of the American conversation. Well, like him or not, everybody knows who he is. That's a huge asset.
There have been setbacks, though. At the end of the 80s, he narrowly avoided insolvency, while his casinos in Atlantic City have filed for bankruptcy 4 times. More recently, his strident, off-the-cuff style got him into hot water when he said former Vietnam prisoner of war Senator John McCain wasn't a war hero because he was captured. And in his announcement speech, he claimed Mexico knowingly sends migrants over the border that have diseases and are rapists. Part of the backlash saw NBC drop his Miss Universe pageant, but he never fully backed down.
Mexico is sending people that Mexico doesn't want, and everybody knows that's what I was saying. And everybody knows that I have great relationships with Mexican people. I have many, many people who work for me who are Mexican. They're phenomenal people. I love them.
As well as building a wall along the Mexican border, declared policies include broad tax cuts, tariffs on imports to encourage U.S. production, and a repeal of Obamacare. But while he's currently doing well among Republicans, his divisive nature means he's unlikely to succeed nationally.
Was running away, he's on fire in his own party, but in a general election, if the election were held today, Bernie Sanders would beat him, Hillary Clinton would crush him, and Joe Biden would beat him by at least 10 percentage points. So he's running away with it on one side, but if today were election day, Donald Trump would not be president.
Nevertheless, his showmanship has put him well ahead of his Republican rivals for now, making him the man to beat in the upcoming debate.
Okay, Stephen. You know, in the media, we all love Donald Trump, and it seems like...
And in the Democratic Party, too.
And in the Democratic Party, too. But it also seems, the numbers suggest that Republicans are rallying behind him.
Sure, he speaks to a very small portion of the Republican primary base, but a portion that is very vocal on some of the issues that he's speaking out about. I think this support is less about him than it is support for none of the above. That the lack of excitement, lack of knowledge, lack of name ID of other presidential candidates on the Republican side amongst Republican voters.
And it's not that there isn't a variety to choose from. I mean, the list is long, 17 candidates currently. And let's take a look at the numbers. Donald Trump currently has 24.5% support, and the one behind him is Jeb Bush, who, I mean, anyone would think would be the front runner at this point, with 12.5 support, almost half. And then it gets smaller and smaller. But such a huge gap. Is that just these vocal Republicans, as you call them?
First of all, these gaps are okay, right? We're 6 months away from the caucuses and the primaries process beginning. We're 460 days away from the general election. You know, you look back at Rick Santorum. Rick Santorum was polling at 4% nationally amongst Republicans, and in the end won the Iowa caucus with 25%, right? So we're far away from it. These campaigns have yet to really spend the advertising dollars that they're going to introducing themselves. Obviously, these debates in 2012, there were, I think, about 20 debates among Republican candidates. These debates are a great opportunity for the less-known candidates to make news and make a name for themselves.
It can really bring on a change.
It can make or break a campaign. We saw it with Rick Perry in the last election in 2012. So, you know, the Trump is fun. You know, as a Democrat, I'm excited that he's in the race. You know, he says crazy things all the time, and I think that's wonderful for us. He's not a real candidate. He's not going to be the nominee of the party. It's distracting. It's taking thunder away from some of those campaigns in the Republican Party that are seeking to get traction. He's certainly, you know, you guys in the media love him. He's good news. He makes for good TV. Ergo, he is on TV more. Ergo, his name ID and obviously his support goes up. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle that I think the media has a large part of. But you
believe it'll stop at some point?
Yeah, it'll have to stop at some point. You're right. You know, he's more. He has zero real policy ability, and so as soon as he starts to talk, he'll put his foot in his mouth, and it'll be the end of the campaign.
Jon, what do you think about what's happening with the Republican race?
Well, it's a highly diversified team right now, which is vying for the nomination. One can expect some of them to drop out of the race. As resources dry out, as numbers don't go up. Once few of them drop out, you'll see the numbers changing dramatically. And as was said here by Stephen, and rightly so, Donald Trump talks about immigration. He addresses a very tiny portion. It's too early in the game.
It is too early. We'll see. We'll keep following it. Thank you, Jon. Thank you, Stephen. Still to come later on the show, a new anti-ISIS YouTube video aims to counter the jihadist group's social media propaganda. But first, let's hear some more of this morning's headlines. Let's say hello and good morning now to Ruti Sinai, who's here to discuss the news we've missed while scanning the headlines. Hi, Ruti.
Hi, Oded. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully. How about you?
Well, if one doesn't read newspapers, one does very well. But unfortunately, that's one of the reasons they pay me.
That's why you're here.
That's right.
I expect my mood to change a little bit.
I'm gonna make it dark for you. Okay. Serious. Yesterday, the French investigators began examining this piece of debris found on Reunion Island in the Pacific. And what I want us to take a look at is how two newspapers, American newspapers, treat the same story. So we've got the gray old lady, the New York Times, which is saying, you know, the debris is almost surely from Flight 370, quotes officials. And then we've got USA Today saying wing flap found traced to missing Malaysian airlines. So, you know, we've got the New York Times being somewhat careful, and the reason they're somewhat careful is that they say that the modification to this bit of wing does not appear to exactly match, so, you know, some technicality.
Right.
The Prime Minister of Malaysia had no such qualms. He immediately declared, this is it. You know, if it is indeed
He reads USA Today.
Yes, obviously, yes. If it isn't it, this could be, you know, sort of the first beginning of an answer to this, probably what is one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time.
Definitely.
So
and it's been
you know,
how long now? It's been
a year and a bit.
A year and change, almost, I think, almost a year and a half now that it's been missing.
It's in March, I think it was March of last year.
Finally, something.
Yeah, and the families, of course, closure, some sort of closure for them, and in general, it would be very helpful to know what happened.
Yep.
Okay, on to our little part of the world. Mordechai Vanunu, remember him?
I do,
okay,
actually.
Well,
he's
for those of you who
he likes to write things on his hand.
That's right. So for those of you who don't remember, he used to be a technician at the Israeli nuclear plant in the south, which, according to foreign sources, he being one of them, that has all sorts of nasty things inside. Anyway, he talked to British newspapers in the 1980s, told them exactly what was inside this building, in this reactor in Dimona, and
they published it.
The Sunday Times or the Times of London published it. He left the country, was lured by the Mossad to go to Rome by a blonde bombshell named Cindy, who then drugged him, and they got him back to Israel. He stood trial for treason, served 18 years in jail, 12 of them in solitary. And he's been under all sorts of restrictions since then.
Even when he was released,
even after
being
released, very strict. He has to notify the authorities if he's going anywhere inside the country. He's not allowed to leave the country. He cannot meet with foreigners for more than 30 minutes
or
and
something.
one at a time.
He was arrested a few months back, a few weeks back, after he had a conversation longer than 30 minutes. So he's definitely being watched.
Definitely. He married a Norwegian theology professor in Jerusalem, and he now wants to go to Norway to visit her family, and he's petitioning the Supreme Court to be allowed to do so. The hearing will be next month.
Right now, and the state will obviously is expected to.
I don't know if they have any sense. I wouldn't, but.
Yeah, but what do you?
Listen, look. You know, everybody was going on about Pollard. You know that the Americans were so vengeful in keeping him in jail because he still knows secrets and stuff. I mean, everything that this guy knew, he was a technician. He wasn't a mastermind, you know, bomb maker. I think that everything he knew, he told, and I don't know that he knows anything else. And I don't see why there's any point in making his life a misery. I mean, he's paid his debt to society.
And then some.
And then some, yeah.
All right.
Okay, our neighbors are having a big party today. Sisi and heads of state are inaugurating the second Suez Canal. Egypt prepares to inaugurate. This is, you know, a passageway, as we know, from Europe to Asia and through, And this is the second one. First one was dug in 1869. This is a very big deal, of course, for Sisi. This is kind of sets a cornerstone of legitimacy to his regime, which he came by through what some would call a military-backed coup. Ousting a his democratically elected predecessor, Morsi. So he is very proud of this. By the way, this was initially supposed to take, work on this was supposed to take 3 years. He did it within, not he, but his workers, obviously, did it within a year.
Very impressive.
Yeah,
I mean,
very
usually we don't see things go that way. If it's planned for 3 years, it'll take 9.
Absolutely, absolutely. So he's got something to be proud of, and we'll see. This is supposed to boost revenues, shortens, you know, sailing time for vessels, for transport, and so on.
Yeah. Otherwise, you really have to go around.
Yeah, very circuitous.
Big.
Also, today in the existing Suez Canal, there's a long waiting. I mean, you have to wait about 20 hours to get through. Okay, speaking of water, there is a Russian woman who's considered the world's greatest freediver. Her name is Natalia Molchanova. We see her here in the Washington Post, and she did a dive. Free diving, for those of you who don't know, is diving without breathing apparatus, without oxygen.
Without anything.
She can hold her breath. Apparently, she could for 9 minutes, up to 9 minutes. Yeah, she's dived as low as 180 meters or something in the past. and she was probably swept up in some currents and couldn't make it back up, and this is off the coast of Spain somewhere, and she is likely to have died.
Yeah, that's very sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, 9 minutes.
Yeah, 9 minutes holding your breath. It's it's kind of something we can't even imagine. I mean.
All right, last one.
Last one. Okay. So you know what I'd like to do? I hope the control room can hear me. I'd like to jump to Netflix.
Let's talk about Netflix.
Yeah. So Netflix is announced yesterday was going to offer unlimited parental leave for up to a year for daddies and mommies, and this is and paid, of course. Paid leave. What they're basically saying, take as long as you like, be home, raise your kids. Don't worry, your job is safe, and we're not going to discriminate against you for not coming to work, and you'll get promoted just as you would if you were coming to work. And this is by far the most generous of all these high-tech internet enterprises,
which,
by far.
It's really the norm in some countries, but definitely not in the States.
Yeah,
I think that in Finland, if I'm not mistaken.
But it's a state. It's not a
private
enterprise.
Company, of course.
Yeah. So hopefully this will set the hopefully this will set the standard. Yeah.
I could.
You could go for that.
Thanks so much.
Sure.
We now move on to the war against ISIS, which is being waged both on the battlefield and in cyberspace. UK-based research group Killian, together with the ad agency Verbalization, released a video earlier this week specifically targeting the Muslim community that seeks to fight back against the social media recruitment tactics employed by the Islamic State. The video offers a bleaker look at life in the service of ISIS. Joining me in the studio now is I-24 News Middle East analyst Ali Waqid. Good morning, Ali. Good morning. So what do you think? Let's take a look at the video and hear more from you then.
Hey, bruv, it's me. I know right now you don't want to talk to me. The thing is, I wish I could see your face now. I tell you I was sorry. I tell you that I wish I could take back every time I sent you a tweet or got all gassed up saying how the West has turned its back on us. He's saying...
Also joining us via Skype from London is Jonathan Russell, political liaison officer at the Killian Center and the hashtag Not Another Brother campaign project leader. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So let's begin with you, Jonathan. Could you tell us what led you to take on this initiative?
Well, it seems to be spread around that ISIL are amazing at social media and produce these Hollywood-style videos, and weirdly that seems to have prompted a certain level of inertia. People are just in awe of this new group and amazed that they might be able to use the internet in the same way that the rest of us can. Mm-hmm. And so we thought, if we're going to fight back, the best way to do that is not necessarily just militarily and not necessarily just using our laws to lock people up who transgress them, but rather we're going to have to develop counter-narrative content. And why not? Why don't we develop things that are equally Hollywood style and using social media to the best of our abilities to get it to our target audience?
Of course. And what sort of research did you do when you started producing this video?
Well, one seminal piece of research was done by my colleague Charlie Winter. He produced a report called The Virtual Caliphate, and that stratifies the 6 main propaganda narratives in ISIL's work. What's strange is that while 80% of the content that makes it to the Western market, to the mass, the mainstream media, is all about brutality, all about beheadings and things like that, that only constitutes about 20% of their work. As much as that, they're talking about this utopian caliphate vision. They're talking about belonging. They're talking about law and order. They're talking about mercy. And really, the target audience, the vulnerable Muslims in the West who are susceptible to joining them, they're getting their media not from the mainstream media, but from Twitter and Facebook and so forth, and are very, very much sold on these other visions, these other propaganda narratives. And therefore, we wanted to build on this research and develop a counter-narrative video that addressed each of these main propaganda themes.
So what is the message? What life at ISIS looks like?
Well, I think there are several main messages. First, that the costs of joining ISIS are far greater than the rewards. But so too that even though there's plenty of people who wouldn't ever consider breaking the law, wouldn't consider being violent, probably don't even support ISIS, the organization, they're nonetheless feeding radicalization and feeding the strength of the group by supporting the same sorts of conspiracy theories and the same sorts of ideologies that groups like ISIS and others promote. And therefore, the key message really is don't let our words turn our brothers into weapons. Right. We want to really intervene earlier and start to challenge the arguments that Islamists use so that they're not taken up by violence eventually.
Yeah. And what sorts of reactions are you getting so far to this?
We're getting a very good reaction. This video has been viewed over 32,000 times already, and it's been taken up in various newspapers, and we're hopeful that this campaign can continue. We're having lots of requests to take it into schools to show young people who might be vulnerable, to make sure that they can access it. We're being asked to create more videos like Not Another Sister and other things within the same campaign. So the reception's been good so far, and what really matters to us is that it gets to our target audience. Mm-hmm. So really, although this campaign was launched 2 days ago, the video was actually seeded into Muslim communities 2 weeks ago, where it got a similarly good reaction, but without any Quilliam branding whatsoever.
I see. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Ali, let's turn to you. How crucial are the Western recruits to ISIS?
They are crucial because they bring the sophistication, they bring the familiarity with this social media use. And I think, Odette, that targeting the Muslim in the West is a key instrument in the fight against the Islamic State. Most of the videos that we saw recently, the Islamic State threatening this state or another state, came from French, Anglophones, etc., etc. But I want to mention one thing. This video came on a very fertile ground and atmosphere against the Islamic State in some communities. Recently, the Islamic State is becoming more a state than an Islamic. It's not a state that is recognized by the international community, but some of the leaders are adopting some of the behaviors of some states and some corrupted states in our region. We are hearing stories about leaders that are running away with the money of the organization that they are stealing, and this is giving a very bad impression on the persons that are already recruited. They are sending to the West and elsewhere messages that they would like to come back and that they are not allowed to come back, and they are planning to run away. Some of them ran away and are interviewed in the local Arab media, telling their stories, and their stories is not encouraging another potential jihadist to join the Islamic State. When we are hearing about leaders running away with millions of dollars of oil sell, and that they were supposed to buy arms, and instead they buy real estate for themselves and for their families, and this is giving the Islamic State, this is taking down the revolutionary spirit that was around the Islamic State, and making the Islamic State as another institutionalized organization that has...
Not exactly what these people are looking for. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ali. Still to come later on the show, after 16 years, Jon Stewart will host the Daily Show for the last time tonight. We'll look at some of our favorite moments. But first, let's hear some more of this morning's headlines. Welcome back. It's still Thursday, August 6th, 2015. This is still your morning edition. I'm still Odette Grober. Thank you for joining us again. For the past 16 years, one man who would probably describe himself as an aging Jew from New Jersey has taken on the mission to reveal truths that the media and politicians were often trying to hide or disguise. I'm talking, of course, about Jon Stewart, who is leaving The Daily Show on Comedy Central tonight. What began as a talk show parody became one of the most influential shows on television, especially considering the show's younger demographic. To take a deeper look at Stewart's impact on comedians and on the media in general, I'm very happy to be joined in the studio by I-24 News correspondent Meirav Savir. Hello to you, Meirav.
Good morning.
By culture editor at Time Out Tel Aviv, Amit Kling. Hi.
Hi.
And by Israeli comedian, satirist, and longtime fan of The Daily Show, Tom Tager. Good morning to you as well.
Hello.
So let's begin with Meirav. You've collected the sort of Jon Stewart best-of for us?
Sort of a best-of. I collected some of his more recent work that you kind of can see all of his 16 years reflected in those. I chose very specific ones that have to do with still current events that are going on right now, and one that I specifically just liked. But it starts off with the Charleston shooting. This is something that we saw over the last month or so, where he really became this somber, out-of-character person, and it was very reflective of his 9/11 monologue. I don't remember if you remember back to 14 years ago. It was one of those days where you didn't recognize Jon Stewart on air because this is the man who you're used to laughing and making fun of everything, and he's almost in tears. And this Charleston one brought back those memories, and it really shows that maybe this is a satirical comedian, but this is what he does every night.
Let's see.
But I didn't do my job today. So I apologize. I got nothing for you in terms of like jokes and sounds because of what happened in South Carolina. We got to do whatever we can to keep Americans safe. 9 people shot in a church. What about that? Hey, what are you going to do? Crazy is as crazy is, right? That's the part that I cannot, for the life of me, wrap my head around. It was an accurate and humble assessment from CNN. Until they realized, oh, we've got 23 hours and 59 minutes left to fill. Let's go nuts. And they did, with everything in their bag of tricks. Giant floor maps, big fake airplanes, little fake airplanes, holographic airplanes. We'll start tonight in the Middle East, where Israel...
What? Israel isn't supposed to defend itself?
Oh, yeah, if Mexico bombed Texas, will we exercise
What other countries held to the same standard as Israel? People that want to destroy her terrorism? What is the matter with you? It's the only democracy in the Middle East, you
Self-hating Jew? The lawless, destructive riots shaking our nation... No, those are Kentucky fans. I'm sorry, after losing. The lawless... No, I'm sorry, that's Michigan State fans after winning. No, I'm sorry, that's a pumpkin festival gone awry. Come on, those are just kids blowing off steam with good-natured arson. Yeah, there you go. That's the worrisome, let's call it urban violence we were looking for.
Very funny. No, why is he leaving? Why? Come on.
The way I look at it is that Jon Stewart has a very, very long future. We don't know what exactly he's going to be, but we saw these little bursts where he did take this leave of absence and he went doing other things. I think he still has a big future ahead of him, and we're in for a ride with Jon Stewart, whether it be in comedy, whether it be in series documentaries. Who knows, maybe a political life? I know a lot of people who would vote for him. So
I think that's wishful thinking.
It's just the beginning, I think, for Jon Stewart.
Colbert's very brief attempt to run.
To run for president in Carolina, absolutely, yeah. That ticket, the Stewart-Colbert ticket, may be something we'll see in 10 years. Who knows? But I personally think this is a new beginning for him. This isn't the end. Maybe it's the end of this show, and like we saw the end with Colbert and that certain persona, but that doesn't mean we won't be seeing Jon Stewart all the time. One of the major things that people remember when they think of Jon Stewart is when he's actually out of character, out of Comedy Central, on Crossfire. And he was single-handedly, people saying he's the reason that show got canceled off of CNN. Who knows how many years after it started running because of that single appearance.
Yeah, he's certainly very influential, and he seems to be giving up on it. I mean, my question to you, do you think he's leaving at the top of his game?
I don't know, the true extent of his game. I'm sure he could have... The Daily Show is more than just Stewart. It's also an insanely good team of writers, almost so many amazing comedians, W. Kamau Bell, very many have passed through the halls of The Daily Show. And so I'm sure that the show would have stayed great. But there's something I just respect about a man who's looking at his legacy and goes, this was great and this is enough. This is commendable,
No, he's certainly had enough. He's been saying it over and over the years. He said, "I can't do it again. Look at how aged I've."
That was just a joke. But this is the real one.
Yeah, Tom, let's turn to you. You're a big fan of The Daily Show.
I am a self-described super fan. Yeah.
Super fan.
Well, as a comedian and as a person who is deeply concerned with the issues of the day, I credit it all to Jon because I'm politically informed only because of him. I am extremely politically informed in everything concerning the U.S., and I am barely informed about what's going on in Israel, in my own country.
Because we don't have
a Jon Stewart. And I think that he's become restless, and I can understand why. If I had to watch Fox News all day, I'd kill myself. I would not only retire, I would retire from this world. And yeah, I think I felt like it's coming. As I've been watching it since I was 15, and in the past year, ever since Colbert left, I felt like, and he admitted it too, that he wanted to do it before, but he didn't want to upstage his friends, so he waited until he was finished and then he announced his retirement. And I think that's, I completely respect his decision, but it's hard for me. I have panic attacks whenever like tomorrow, I'm gonna watch the last show tomorrow, and I can't believe it. I still can't really digest it.
That it's actually gonna be the last one. Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna have a huge celebration there. It'll be interesting to see who comes back.
He's so modest, and he's annoyingly modest. He won't take credit for anything, so I don't know. Maybe it will be like anticlimactic. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see. He's been sitting in the same chair for 16 years, and so many people who worked with him moved on to do other things, to become huge stars, some of them, and he's kind of stayed in place. I can see why he'd want to change something.
Yeah, but he said that he didn't really want anything else other than that. He said, I'm comfortable here, this is what I do well. He doesn't want to do acting anymore.
Well, he tried.
Yeah,
we
he
all
tried.
Remember Death to Smoochie.
Yeah, and he hated it.
I like it.
Big Daddy.
Yeah, he keeps making fun of himself in that regard.
Rosewater, though.
I feel like he's gonna take this time and rest and really be with his family because it was a really hectic job for him for 16 years. I mean, to run this kind of operation every day is so difficult. So I believe, yeah, he's gonna rest for a while. I don't know if we'll see anything of him maybe in a couple of years. I don't know. I hope.
All right, let's take a look now at a report by Mendy Kogosovsky, who went out to see how people were influenced by Jon Stewart. Here it is.
Last week, the Obama administration and Iran, in cooperation with Russia, France, Britain, Germany, and China, reached an historic outline of a framework of an outline for a potential draft.
After more than 16 years in the anchor seats of one of TV's top satires, Jon Stewart is leaving The Daily Show. We set out to a stand-up comedy evening in Tel Aviv to ask the next generation of comedians what they think of Stewart and how he has influenced them.
He really taught me how to take real stuff, politics and real life stuff, and make them funny and look at them in a funny way, in a humoristic way. You don't need to know other stuff to understand him.
He really influenced comedy by bringing in-depth topics, creating comedy that is much more than falling on a banana peel. He has challenged the next generation of comedians by developing a more sophisticated form of comedy, comedy with a message.
Jon Stewart is more or less just the sexiest man alive. It's that simple, I think, isn't it? The fact that he had such a strong opinion, and he actually encourages other people to have opinions about what's going on around them.
I think that my comedy and also Brits is very influenced by Jon Stewart. I watch him over and over.
But not everyone in the club is such an enthusiastic fan.
Actually, I don't know who Jon Stewart is.
It's not so exciting for me to watch his shows. If you asked me if I wanted to have a beer with Jon Stewart, I'd say no.
Oh, you want to go to war, though? Simple majority.
Ouch.
Was she a comedian? The person who said she doesn't know him?
Some people don't know him, you know.
Well,
Tell me, to you that
wrong.
might seem unimaginable, but you know.
No, I know people. Well, especially in Israel. I mean, he doesn't talk about Israel all that much, and I can understand why Israelis won't really, you know, see him as this beacon of sanity the way we see him. But you know, these last few days I've done a couple of tributes for John, graphic tributes. I've taken some of his quotes and created like this graphic representation of them, and people really responded to it. And I was really shocked by how many Israelis really know him, love him, and follow his show.
Yeah, so many people really get the news from him that also in Israel.
I don't
everywhere.
trust any other news source. I know this is not the nicest thing to say to a news.
Growing up in the States with this and high school and college, it's something you really realize. I think statistics say that 1 out of 11 Americans gets their news from The Daily Show. That's an amazing statistic. It's more than people who watch MSNBC at the end of the day. And him and Colbert retiring in the first year, as a journalist, I'm sort of concerned about the way people will now get their news, as he always bashes Fox News, CNN, all the big ones. And it's something that maybe, you know, millennials, people, younger generations, are they going to stop getting news now that they're not getting it in this satirical way?
Well,
I don't know if John Oliver is enough for people to tune into, not having it on a daily basis.
Well, we will have Trevor Noah starting September.
We'll see about that.
It's an interesting.
Which is also something that I've heard a lot of people saying, whether or not they'll actually tune into Trevor Noah. You know, you have Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, who retired earlier in this year, that people are attached to. It's not only that they trust them, they're attached to these personas.
I watch Noah out of curiosity, but generally, I don't want to, you know, some small-minded, but I'm kind of done, I think.
No, exactly, and that's
a lot. What people are saying. Are you watching the nightly?
But I'm also kind of done.
Are you watching the nightly show with?
I've watched it a bit, but
you're not following.
He did
not the same way you did with Colbert.
And I haven't seen it once.
I also take certain issue with John Oliver. I like him. I'm also somewhat critical of him. He's sometimes a bit too elitist, a bit too serious,
a bit too British.
Yeah, well, yes, and stay that way. But I want to say one thing. Stewart, you know, he started the show, we're concluding a 16-year run, which is pretty much when comedy started coming out of the woodwork after a very difficult 90s. And what it has evolved into in recent years, and the public standing of stand-up comedy and of comedians, has a lot to do with what Stewart has done. This tackling of very serious issues has been... It has influenced the topics comedians can tackle, and this is why comedians are sort of functioning as today's public intellectuals. I mean, you can't really be a philosopher in the limelight anymore. This is not the 50s. There's no starter.
You don't get the airtime.
There's no starter. That's done. But we do have Stewart.
Look, no one's gonna be like Stewart. No one. But still, I follow the nightly show. I follow John Oliver, which I think is brilliant. I think that they wouldn't have existed without him, and I think that he was a revolutionary, and that maybe we'll see more. I mean, I know Samantha Bee, a correspondent on his show, is going to get a show too, so I'm looking forward to more satire on television.
So what'd you bring us?
I brought the mug.
Mug?
Yes, I watch the Daily Show with the mug in hand, pretending I'm there.
You have the shirt?
I have the shirt, which I
have
designed.
Did you wanted a contest for the blue sheets? I know that they're going to be auctioning off his blue sheets from his desk, the ones that he writes on.
The ones that he always does.
Yeah, that he scribbles on. That I think he admitted he doesn't actually write anything on them. He just scribbles.
I don't think it's open for people from Israel, so I didn't.
The manic energy of assaulting.
I do have some problem with him, I must say. He did interview Tom Cruise just recently about the latest Mission Impossible, and not a word was said about Scientology.
Right. But
well, we are all afraid of Scientologists, and rightfully so.
Right. I mean, I think, you know, still, I'm on air now, and I'm afraid talking about Scientology.
I have once gotten in trouble with the Scientologists, and it was terrifying.
You're not going to do it again,
the
all right?
The one thing I'm more bothered by than the Scientology and Tom Cruise is, we were talking about it earlier, Fox News' first Republican debate is tonight, and of course Jon Stewart is going out on the same night. They pre-tape, so I don't think they're going to have time to run anything from there. So who's going to bash Fox News?
He's going off. Let's do it now. Let's do it now.
So he can't talk about it. It's definitely something that, you know, you need somebody to keep in line all the different news networks, not only Fox. I know Fox was his favorite target, and Fox loved targeting Jon Stewart.
That's
so
true.
who
It
will
was a
replace
back
it for
and
them
forth.
either? So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward with Fox. We're going to miss it. I'm still waiting for Colbert to come back as the replacement.
Yeah, Colbert is at least coming back somewhere else with something a little different, and we'll see how Trevor Noah does. Thank you all for this
Thank you for the opportunity to bash John.
Still to come later on the show, new film trailers, and we'll ask which Hollywood blockbuster spends the most on advertising. We'll take a look into that, but first, some more of this morning's headlines. We're back. Good morning, and joining me in the studio now is the editor of the Culture magazine, Avri Rosen-Tzvi. Good morning, Avri.
Good morning, Oded.
Also here is Mit Klink, still with us, the editor of Time Out.
Back. And why must this man be that conundrum?
I'm working on my beard, but until I grow it, Avri, what do you have for us?
Terrible job.
Terrible job.
I can see
Terrible.
you can't grow a beard for your life.
Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Mission Impossible
growing a beard. This is the fifth film. I think they should have understood by now that it's really possible. All of these missions are possible.
Beard possible.
It's a misnomer. Okay, new film.
Is it the fifth or the sixth?
It's the fifth.
It's the fifth
film in the series. Tom Cruise coming back. He's 53 years old. Doesn't look a day over like 40 or something like that.
Impossible facelift.
I don't think.
I don't think so. I
think he has like
I'm just being
naturally.
No, it's from
childish.
Zord or from what's no?
We're not going there.
Okay.
Contractually obliged not to go there.
Yeah. This is the fifth movie, like we said. It was made by Christopher McQuarrie, director of The Usual Suspects, which...
That's interesting.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit, but let's look at a bit of the trailer for the movie and come back.
Important point. If you haven't opened that hatch after 2.5 minutes, we're both dead.
No, no, no.
Ethan, do you copy? Ethan, abort! Abort now!
Whoa, 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 whoa. Are you okay to drive? I mean, a minute ago you were dead. What are you talking?
There's a lot going on.
It's a really fun movie.
Those movies always seem like they're going to be terrible, and then they're fun.
Yeah, it's all it needs to be is fun. I mean, nobody's looking for anything more.
No, but it's a really good action movie, and there's a shortage of that.
Certainly.
So yeah, it's very interesting. It made 130 million worldwide, which is not bad at all. For it's not Jurassic World money, but it's a different kind of movie. So first of all, we should say
how much money was spent? What's the budget?
I don't know. Okay. I couldn't find the budget, but it looks like 80 to 100. I don't think it's a $150 million movie.
All right.
So yeah,
practical effects, if I'm right.
Well,
a lot of it.
Tom Cruise does a lot of his own effects. It's sort of a point of pride with him. And then each movie we see, I believe we have some visuals of him doing, like the movie starts with him hanging off a plane, and he was actually hanging off a plane. You know,
I wonder how much of the budget was insurance.
It's a lot. It's a lot of money. You know, there's a thing. I heard an interview where, like, as the plane was taking off, Christopher McQuarrie was thinking, what if a bird comes in and takes off his head? It's like, we can't. But yeah, Christopher McQuarrie, the director of the writer of Usual Suspects, 20 years ago, this July. So he made that movie. He wrote that movie, which was, he won an Oscar for that. Great movie. And then he sort of disappeared from the landscape for a while. And Tom Cruise really resurrected his career, because Tom Cruise brought him in to write some of his movies like Edge of Tomorrow and stuff like that. And then he He directed his last movie, Jack Reacher, which was also a nice action.
I must admit, I skipped that one.
Okay, it was a nice movie. It looked really bad, but I went to watch it because of Christopher McQuarrie, because of the name. So Tom Cruise really resurrected his career. And if we can say like one thing about Tom Cruise. Well, he's very, very intimately involved with the movies he makes. You know, from the screenplay to the execution, but he gives directors a lot of freedom, and he knows how to choose his directors. You know, he brought on Brad Beard for 4. He brought J.J. Abrams from television to direct Mission Impossible 3. He gives them, you know, a shot, and he lets them do their thing. And so each movie in the series has sort of the different DNA of a different director. They have like a core to them, but they're very different.
Yeah, and they all like to take masks off.
They all like to take masks off.
That's a staple since the TV series. I think it mostly exists as a sort of homage to the original at this point.
I think 3 used it like very well.
I think it's only in your mind, I must say, Amit, because I think most of the viewers of this film have never seen a frame of the original series.
That's true, but I think that's sort of the way the series keeps its connection to itself. I mean, is it 3? It's true. I didn't see the 5th one yet. It seems fun. I don't know how much Matt used.
What's sort of interesting is that when I was a kid, I had the A-Team and Mission Impossible confused all the time.
Where are they now?
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. What else do you have?
We have an Israeli science fiction comedy. Another one of those. Yeah, I know. OMG, I'm a Robot. It's about a guy, a really sensitive, sweet, geeky guy who discovers he's a robot and goes on all these weird adventures. I haven't seen the movie.
You see some of yourself in him, Avli.
I haven't.
Especially
only
there.
the robot part, because I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Not sensitive at all.
Yeah, but so in the interest of full disclosure, the directors, Gal Zelezniak and Tal Goldberg, went to school with me, like film school.
Yep.
But I haven't seen the movie, so I can't tell you if it's good or not, so we don't have that problem. It's an independent science fiction comedy.
Which is already amazing that it's being done in Israel.
Yeah, well, with special effects, it's very stylized.
And from the trailer, it looks good.
I think what's amazing about people doing an independent sci-fi comedy here is not only the budget thing. It's the fact that as a culture, we're not usually fun enough or lighthearted enough to do something like that.
Yeah, and when we asked the directors...
It's not about we managed to pull it off. It's more about, it's so nice that somebody didn't want to make another serious war movie about some dysfunctional family.
And we talked to the directors. They were on the Culture Show this week. And we talked to them about it, and they say, first of all, they said it's about time that somebody does that. But it's sort of a generation that grew up on these 80s movies, and they say, people love these 80s movies. They only don't see them in Hebrew with local actors, and they have some really good actors. They have Dror Keren and Tzachi Grad, who are big in the local industry, and
it somehow reminds me, the structure of the trailer. I know that what I'm going to mention is not a sci-fi movie, but there's this upcoming Jesse Eisenberg action comedy, which I forget its name, where he's a sleeper agent who works at a gas station.
I don't know what that is.
It's pretty much... okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I made it up, okay? You will never know.
Now write the script and let's make a film out of it. All right, last but very quickly.
Okay, we're moving on to Deadpool. Deadpool is like a lesser-known comic book character. It had a very bad portrayal in the movie Wolverine Origins. I don't remember, or whatever. Ryan Reynolds played that part there, and since then he's been trying to resurrect it as... in the right way. It's an action comedy. Deadpool is known for breaking the fourth wall. Let's watch a little bit of the trailer.
We can fight this.
You're right. The cancer's only my liver, lungs, prostate, and brain. All things I can live without.
What if I told you we can make you better? You're a fighter. We can give you abilities most men only dream of. Make you a superhero.
Some humor.
Some humor. He, like I said, he's known for breaking the fourth wall in the comics and talking to the viewer, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out on screen.
Yeah, very, very cool. Thanks, Avli.
Thank you.
Beard number 2. Yes. You're here to
I'm just here
take us
to grow hair on camera. Look, it's growing slowly right now.
Fastly.
You're going to present the web review for us, right?
Yes, when I chant beard, 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 it grows fast.
I mean, we have a few minutes left on the show. You can do that.
Or
you can give us a web review.
Okay, let's start with Forbes, which is, it's published its annual highest paid actors. Avery, this is for you. Who tops the list once again? Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Worth every penny.
He hauled $80 million.
What?
$80 million.
Wow.
Probably not for long, since he's going to portray Iron Man for the last time soon. So then he won't be pulling as much money.
It's interesting because there's this conflict. He's a huge star, but I don't know if he's on the top of the public's perception as top stars.
Yeah,
I come up to you and I go like, oh, they start naming actors.
Yeah,
I don't know
Robert
when you
Downey
get
Jr.
after.
is not the first one you're going to say.
He's only Iron Man for the past 10 years.
Yeah, but I think
that's all he does.
At the end of the day, how much money they make relates to how much money the movies they're in make. And the films that he's in make a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, and I also think it, of course, has to do with smart contracts that work with percentages, such stuff, not just the payday itself.
He's also pulling in, revenue from all the past Marvel movies that he's been in,
Exactly.
So it's sort of like it gets bigger with each movie, like the return. So
Yeah, he's just. I think he's just going sitting there every day, just going like, "Thank God I said yes to this one. Thank God I said yes to this one.
Thank God he really needs to thank
God I
said
no drugs."
But exactly with him not doing drugs anymore, and what's he spending it all on?
I think it's just like buying drugs and looking at them.
Reportedly not doing drugs. Maybe
all right.
Maybe
Before it gets out of hand.
He gives it to Klink and he says, "You do the drugs, I'll look at you."
I just want to feel something.
Okay. Next. Speaking of drugs.
Oh, yes. Well, are you a Stones guy or a Beatles guy?
Beatles, I'm afraid.
Avi? Beatles. Of course you are. You, I'm surprised. But you, Avi, I expected. Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. I am obviously a Stones guy, first and foremost.
You're a stoned guy.
I am. First and foremost, the Rolling Stones for me. Keith Richards said, Sgt. Pepper is a mishmash of rubbish, which is like the most British way to make a diss.
Mishmash of rubbish.
It's a mishmash of rubbish. Isn't it amazing? It's like, this is, I think, the first time in his lifetime that Keith Richards has showed his age.
Something like that.
I'm going to fight with a band that has not existed for decades by using the words mishmash of rubbish. Keith, I love you, never change, man.
But do you agree?
I don't agree. I don't agree. It's a mishmash of rubbish. No.
No, it's a flim flam.
It's a flim flam of gobbledygook. But I do.
You're not gonna go out against Keith Richards.
I will take almost any Stones album. Like, I'll take the worst Stones album over the best Beatles album almost every day.
Well, all right. You've embarrassed yourself. I think you've embarrassed yourself enough, but keep going.
Well, that is a flip-flop of diddly squat. Go to your whatchamacallit.
I'll find something. What else do you have for us?
Okay, Gawker is reporting on a Christian university that has its teachers have decided to unionize.
Okay.
And the university said that unions are against its religious mission. It's unchristian to unionize, which is, I think we can call it like a Republican meltdown of ideas.
It's unchristian to unionize.
Yes.
That's a wonderful approach.
I can't even pronounce it right. It's in Pittsburgh. It's a Duquist or something. It's one of those words with a lot of use in the
concept. I'm sure that somebody will pick up on that here as well and say that.
But you know what? We had
some rabbi will say that
our education minister actually, who used to be like the CEO of a startup.
Company, right?
He actually said that he would feel like a personal failure if his work is unionized because he feels like he's the father of all his workers. So that's like a nice capitalist bullshit.
There's some Christian ideas there.
I do also want to remind that just yesterday, Chris Christie, who is another Republican figure, of course, said he was asked during an interview who would he like to punch in the face? And without missing a beat, he just goes, National Teachers Union.
Oh, wow.
Well, I can understand you wanting to punch a teacher if you're like.
But how does a union have a face? That's like, he's gonna go teacher, just bam.
It's like those teachers with the money they make, you know. There was a really funny thing in The Onion where they say Bernie Sanders clearly in the pocket of teacher who gives $300 to his campaign.
That's why we love The Onion.
Let's keep going, Amit.
Okay, so a while back, a while back, about like 20 years ago.
That is a what?
Video games have, raised budgets, and they try to get celebrities to appear on them, usually in video. And that's a concept that got much derided since, because those games were often subpar.
Dark times.
Dark times, and ever since, there was no celebrities for years in video games. That was not a thing. But now there's a resurgence, and the next person to get her own video game is Nicki Minaj, who already sort of looks like, I think, like a Street Fighter character.
Is it gonna be called Ass Attack? What is that?
I can't believe you said that. That's
Kim
amazing.
Kardashian made a hell of a lot of money with her app.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't exactly know what kind of game it's going, but it's probably going to be something like that, one of those mobile social games with a pay-per-play method, you know?
Yeah.
When you buy in-game upgrades and stuff like that, mostly for children with parents' credit cards. You nod sadly.
You gotta spend somebody's money.
Exactly.
All right. Well, after you'll play it, you'll come and tell us how it is. Thank you, Amit. Thanks, Avri. That's our show for today. Thank you at home for watching. You can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and of course on i24news.tv. And join us again tomorrow for another morning edition. Have a great day, everybody.